Hi, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Welcome to our self-healing class. This is our Thursday evening Louise self-healing class based upon the book You Can Heal Your Life and The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. So again, I see people are still signing in. Welcome to our center, to our First Church here in West 84th Street. As we come together this evening, we embark on a journey, not just of healing, but of profound self-discovery and nurturing. Tonight's discussion will be around the subject of extreme self-care, radical self-care. But before we get into our discussion about extreme self-love, I have a little story for you that tells a bit of what the lesson is. It's called The Lighthouse of Self-Discovery. In a northern seaside town, beneath the vast expanse of the sky and the endless murmuring of the seas, lived Milo, the lighthouse keeper. His life, like the solitary beacon that he tended to every night, was a testament to service, guiding sailors safely to shore. He had been doing it for years. In the quiet hours, Milo's own light dimmed under the weight of self-neglect, though, a reflection of the sea's hidden depths. Milo's existence was marked by a great dedication he always had to others, placing the needs of the sea travelers above his own. But the relentless waves and the constant vigil began to erode his spirit, leaving him feeling like the worn rocks that lined the shoreline. One particular stormy night, as Milo wrestled with the gale and the storm itself, he was going to his desk and the bookshelf, and he noticed the book You Can Heal Your Life. So he opened it up, and it opened to the page where Louise said, "When we really love ourselves, everything in our life works." And he said, yes, he knew that line. He had heard it before. It had been a long time. But it stood out that evening like a beacon within him, illuminating the neglected corners of his self-care. Again, when we really love ourselves, everything in our life works. Inspired now, Milo saw his role as the lighthouse keeper in a different way. He was not just a guardian for others, but he was also the caretaker of his own soul. He realized that to keep his light bright for those at sea, he must first fuel his own flame with self-love and self-care. Milo began to set boundaries from thereafter, learning the power of saying no or not now to, whereas before he would always say yes. He started to prioritize his needs, understanding that self-care was not selfish, but essential. He said, "I am deserving of love and happiness." And then into the storm again, "I am deserving of love and happiness," claiming his right now to nurture his own well-being. This moment he had of inspiration and his new decision, an act of self-love, transformed him. He found strength in solitude, not as a sentence of loneliness, but as a space for rejuvenation. His light, both literal and metaphorical, burned brighter, became a more potent guide for those navigating their way through the dark. The townspeople noticed the change in Milo very quickly. His strength in setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care inspired them to reflect on their own practice of self-neglect. Milo's lighthouse became a symbol of self-love and personal power, teaching everyone that caring for oneself illuminates the path not only for our own journey, but for those we guide along their way. His story is a call to all caretakers to embrace self-care first as a foundation for their work. It reminds us that by loving ourselves and setting boundaries, we reclaim the power and ensure that our light remains a steadfast beacon for those we serve. Again, loving ourselves works miracles in our lives. This powerful assertion guides our exploration this evening as we get into what it means to practice extreme self-care, caring for ourselves with such depth and dedication that it transforms our very being, radiating outwards from us to everyone we touch and into all areas of our lives. So this evening's big suggestion is that we will all benefit more by loving ourselves more, by nurturing our inner sanctuary. If you're really learning to love yourself radically, it's important that you're consistent. It needs more to be just a passing affirmation or just an occasional self-indulgence. It's about setting up a life where you constantly honor and respect yourself, where you constantly love and appreciate yourself. Louise Hay said, when we really love ourselves, again, everything in our life begins to work. So that's what I really want to start with this evening. It's an idea most of us have heard before, unless you're new. We do our work in mind and in consciousness. We're always working in mind and in consciousness. We're working with our thoughts. We're learning how to be more loving, more forgiving. We learn to love, accept, and approve of ourselves exactly as we are. We're not here to criticize ourselves or criticize others. We're learning to really accept ourselves as we are, knowing that whatever we have done in the past, any and all decisions brought us to where we are now. So we're here to release the past and forgive ourselves and forgive everyone else. So that's where we start. We start to monitor that internal dialogue that I speak about every week, and we pay attention to where we go towards the negative side of things, where we become critical, where we use words like should, or wherever we're being negative towards ourselves or other people. We learn to get a handle on that conversation. Stop it. Interrupt that conversation. Stop it now. and find a way to turn that conversation around. There's lots of techniques we've spoken of in other weeks, and we will continue to speak about. But the main thing to do is to realize that our life is a reflection of what our consciousness is. And that's the whole thing. It's, our subconscious as well as our conscious mind. It's the collection of all our beliefs, and all of that, the tendency of our thoughts are being projected into our life, and we can get a handle on that. So we want to set up our life where we're constantly honoring ourselves and taking better care of ourselves. This is this evening's radical self-love discussion, where we're committed more than ever to take care of ourselves, to taking care of the most important person in your world. It always has to begin with yourself. Most of us are learning to build an inner sanctuary. You'll hear Louise say, deep in the center of my being, there's an infinite well of love. Or you can think of it as a sanctuary with power beyond measure. All of us are connected to spirit. We live, we move, we have our being in this incredible energy, and we're all a part of it. We're each an individualization of it. So we want to build our consciousness to such a place where the external chaos cannot disrupt this inner sanctuary. Deep in the center of our being, again, there's this infinite place. It's there in all of us. You can listen to it. It will guide you if you will allow it. So we acknowledge in the world that there are things that are happening, without a doubt. There are facts that exist in the world. But we know intuitively that much of this is not our personal problem unless we choose to take it all on. We're coming to realize that we're not here to solve everything. I think I've told everybody about my time at a therapist. I was trying to remember this afternoon when it was, and it's probably somewhere the mid-'80s, maybe 1985. But the lady's name was Joyce, and every week she gave me this business card. And the flip side of the card always had one question: whose problem is it? And it confounded me for a while. I thought, why is she always giving me this? Me this card? And it was obvious. I was a person that was always taking on the responsibilities of other people, and that can be. You can find folks like that in Al-Anon or Coda. It's a problem for you when it brings on unhappiness. I have a friend who I often say, try to manage your expectations. Because if you come to the point ultimately where you know all is well, as you get involved in the practice of religious science, you're going to realize everything's unfolding perfect time, perfect place. And if I'm getting all bent out of shape when people don't behave, and people will never behave, who's got the problem? Whose problem is it? Well, for many, many years, it was always my problem because I was bothered by everything that everybody was doing. I could go into a large room of people, and I've been trained as a therapist. I could listen and get to know, and I could see everybody having problems. I could diagnose people. But the thing is, who had the problem? I had the problem. As we get more involved in religious science and metaphysical studies, we understand that all these people that I thought had problems were really perfectly fine. They were all evoluting along, doing the best they could with what they knew. And the person who was upset was me. So if it's your kids, it's your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, and if you're the language in it in your mind, you're thinking about like they're doing this and they're doing that. If everything about the way you're thinking about things is what other people are doing, someone might tell you one day, if they wanted to be perfectly honest, that you're a bit other referred. We want to get to the place where we're not giving our power away. If you note that you're giving your power away and you're upset when people, places, or things are not to your liking, then the only person really that's going to make you happy is you, and it always comes back to you. I'm fond of saying from a different course, I could see peace instead of this. I could be more charitable in my assessment of another person. I could understand they're doing the best they can. I don't have to make it my problem. I don't need to have all these attachments. I had another great facilitator many years ago. Her name was Shelley, and she would get into that subject also, this person over here doing whatever they're doing is fine. Why am I taking on this problem? So I'm wanting everybody to get and understand in terms of loving yourself more is we don't have to take on everybody's problems. We don't have to say, just because someone is having a problem, it doesn't have to become yours. You don't have to fix everything and respond to everything. So for this discussion, this journey towards loving ourselves more, it requires us to look deeply within, acknowledging our worth and affirming our right to care deeply for ourselves. You might ask yourself the question, have I been taking better care of other people than I have myself? And that's going to be yes for many of people. I'm taking care of their kids better, their parents better, their brothers, their sisters, everybody except the most important person in the world. So I'm asking you to take a look at this subject. I'm certainly not judging anybody because I've had enough years of caretaking others, being other referred. We really want to release the need to give our power away. I remember at a religious science convention years ago, a woman's name was Candace. She did a skit on the stage, and she went through a week where she gave her power away. You saw it in, there's like a lot of, one skit after another after another where she's giving her power away. And then she realized that she wasn't taking very good care of herself. So the final act of the skit is you saw her move through all those places where she was in the week, and she took her power back. She took it back, she took it back, she took it back. So how do you take your power back? Well, in lots of ways. Saying no, getting used to saying no. That might be a foreign word for many people, but you can say it. People will get used to it if you set new boundaries. Or you could say to someone, instead of no, you could say, this isn't a good time for me. Other ways of boundaries, if people in your life and they're continually doing things that are bothersome, you can let them know how you feel. You can let them know, not now, perhaps later, but finding your voice is important, loving yourself enough to do that. Many people are still playing roles that we were taught to play when we were younger, when we were kids. A lot of us have been trained to be the best little boys and girls in the world, so you've taken on a lot of responsibilities. Some of us, again, are taking better care of others, as I said, than we do ourselves. So this evening, we're asking everybody just to think about it and to consider, if you're doing that, to consider loving yourself more, nurturing yourself more, especially any of you who are doing more, overperforming, say, at work, or as a parent, spouse, or in any kind of relationship, where the line between care and control blurs. And I say this because there's a lot of times when people are out there caring for others, then you develop expectations from these same people, and that's where all the trouble starts. It starts when you're doing too much anyway because you're not taking care of yourself. But when it goes to the next stage where you're doing a lot and then the people you're doing it for don't respond the way you'd like them to respond, they don't say the things you want them to say, and you have expectations. So I have one particular friend who I speak to often, and I say to her, manage your expectations. What I've learned in all these different classes is refuse to be offended. People are doing the best that they can. I needed to learn, and I still need to remind myself to manage my expectations. It's important to establish practices that affirm our self-worth and prioritize our personal well-being. I'll give you a couple examples of how individuals can practice radical self-care in these contexts. First of all, when you're dealing with other people, try to have as clear of a boundary as you can. Learn to say no, practice it. It might be difficult for a few people. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. Whether it's declining an extra assignment in school or at work, setting limits on your availability. In other words, I'm not available after 9, or I'm doing all my work between noon and 5 p.m. I'm not available for phone calls. This might sound rough for some of you, but these are ways in which people learn to take care of themselves. Or maybe resisting the urge to solve every problem for your child or partner, because you might have something unhealthy set up where you're just overdoing something. And maybe you want to do for them, and which is fine, but maybe it might be something where it'd be helpful for both of you if you set some limits. And then as you do, you'll see that they'll start to learn to do things for themselves. There's a lot of people who are caretakers. I mean, in the sense, they have a sense of power with that, and then comes the control, and then comes the unhappiness. So that's the whole subjects. You can learn a lot by under the subject of codependency with books like Melody Beatty, Codependent No More, or some of the Al-Anon material. But when we're giving, we want to give without expectation. That's all I can say there. And having healthy boundaries for yourself, having few expectations from others. when I give a gift, personally, I have no sense that someone ought to give me something in return. When I give a gift, this has been me for many years now, I give it because I want to give it. Now, that wasn't me when I was younger. There was a race to the Christmas tree, and all the kids were making sure everybody got, some type of equity. Today it's different. It's a religious science person. I give because I want to give, because I know life loves a giver, and I know as I give, I'm supplied. I feel more prosperous, actually, as I give, because there's a knowing that I have. So it's also, when I do, it's because I want to. If I'm giving out of a sense of obligation or something, it's entirely different. So those are some ideas. Boundaries with work, boundaries with school. Maybe you say no to extra assignments, extra work, or say, I can't do it now, I'm very busy. But, speak up for yourself. Resisting the urge to solve every problem for every person. Set boundaries. One thing I learned in all those courses throughout the years is boundaries aren't like brick walls. In other words, I might say, I can't do this for you right now, but I might be able to help you later in the week. They're negotiable, or maybe there's a person in your life who's constantly, asking more from you than what you feel you ought to provide, and you say no for a while, and you can renegotiate that later. So those are some ideas. Always in this class, I invite you to get centered, to take a pause for affirmative prayer. I've been doing this for years, working with affirmations. I would always say, this is God in my life. Whatever is going on, this is God in my life. Or I would say, I am supplied and supported. I take that pause and center myself. Especially if I'm being reactive, I would take that time out and take that pause. Because I know now, deep at the center of my being, there is this internal guidance system. And if I slow down, take a pause, I'll center myself and I won't be so reactive. So learn to take a pause throughout the day. Take a few. We call it the pause that refreshes. And that leads into the next suggestion for radical self-love is find time to be alone. Dedicate time for yourself daily. A few minutes, maybe to breathe deeply, or maybe to meditate, work with your affirmations, or engage in something you love. Some people I used to like to draw, draw an object or something. It just takes your mind to a different place. Or take a short walk, just whatever it is, taking some time to be with yourself and by yourself. This practice helps you maintain your inner sanctuary and to keep the eternal chaos at bay. Because if you're just going and running all day long, you're not taking the time to inform yourself or center yourself that all is well. And just these brief little breaks in the day, I won't tell you how many to take. I've known people that do it every 15 minutes. I know people that do it in the morning or the evening, but the more you do it, the better. Working with affirmations, the more you can do it, the better. Of affirmative prayer, they used to tell us to do them early, late, and often. Really, the suggestion then was to do them quite a bit. Ernest Holmes said something, there's power for good in the universe, greater than you, and you can use it. So he would argue that we're all using our creative power. If we're negative or we're feeling like the world is against us, we're using our power to create a world that's against us. So if we take a pause to remind ourselves that we're supplied and supported and that all is well, the more we pause and remind ourselves of the truth, that we're supplied and supported and all is well, then our life will start to reflect that. We will have that equanimity, we'll have that peace. So you can, in other words, you can create it and bring it into your life. My next talking point is practice self-compassion. I think I've already said that. Replace any form of self-criticism with kindness and understanding. I'll always say in these classes, never, never, never criticize yourself. That's from my early Louise Hay teaching. Never, never be critical, because try your best to remember that you've always been growing and evolving and evoluting, and you're learning, and give yourself a break. Be kind to you, radically kind, and as you're able to love yourself more and more, you'll find that you'll be able to extend it to others. My greatest gift was where I used to judge a whole room of people because I was young and smart. I could see it. I could see what they're all doing. But then I realized as I had a finger pointing at them, I had three pointing at me. And you've all heard the expression before, if you spot it, you've got it. So now I can go into the same rooms and I'm not slightly troubled by what they're doing. I just figure that's life. Everybody's where they are and everybody's unfolding in divine right action. And I'm perfectly okay with it most of the time. I mean, unless they're doing something right in my face or something. So religious science can be very cool because it can bring you to a place where you're pretty, it's not that things can't bother you, but most of the time you realize that all is well and everybody's where they are. So let's go to Louise Hay's affirmation that I have next. I affirm, and I love myself the way I am, and all is well. That's a nice one. I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am, as I think her original. My next notes are take some time to pursue personal pleasures, interests. This is very, very important. Plan in every single day a little activity or a lot of activity that brings you joy and fulfillment outside of your role as your partner, you're the mother, the father, the brother. Take some time out to do something that you like doing. I remember my mother always writing notes to people that gave her pleasure, or there were certain readings that she liked to do. My father used to take these walks every day, these power walks to be in nature. Some of you like reading. It doesn't really matter. I mentioned before painting, journal writing. This class, this particular lesson said it's really important to pursue some of your own interests or develop some if you think, I don't have any. I watch TV. Maybe just a walk around your whole block. I do that occasionally in New York, and I see things I've never seen before, and it's very interesting. So breaking some of routines and finding some time for you to do some type of activity that brings you joy. Maybe it's been years since you've done something. I went out a few years ago and I bought an expensive bowling ball, and I started bowling for a while, and that brought me a lot of joy. Everything went in the gutter, but it was still. I needed to do something different, and it was something I did for a while, and then I did it with a group of people, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it doesn't have to be something you're going to do forever, but plan time for joy. I think that Lady V would like that because that's one of her favorite words. So find something. Could be reading, could be anything, baking. It doesn't matter. Nature is always good. So when you do this, it's going to reinforce the idea that your value isn't solely tied into how much you do for other people. So whatever this activity is not an activity that's tied into how much you do for other people. It's something to bring you pleasure, and it can be anything. Next way to work on radically loving ourselves is make your health a real priority. Some kind of exercise is needed. Even for those of us who don't really like exercising, it's important to get some exercise. It's important to get enough sleep to make you feel good, and eat foods that make you feel good, that are good for you. These are all fundamental acts of self-love. Neglecting your health can exacerbate feelings of stress and inadequacy. Next point for radical self-love is practice, practice, practice being grateful. Focus on what you have in your life. This was Raymond Charles Barker. He'd look at himself, oh, Raymond. He'd say, oh, Raymond, you're this, you're that. He'd talk to himself. Loving himself, or in his apartment, I recall, he loves his couch or his sofa, and he loves this, and he loves that, and oh, you're beautiful. He's grateful for everything. I laugh because he's very funny when he expresses it, but what he's really trying to say is something very important. Instead of coming from the spectrum of what you don't have, it's always good if you can turn that around to, you focus on your blessings. You've heard, it's an old saying, count your blessings. Focus on what's good. Focus on the people that love you or the things you care about. That will help you shift your consciousness around. Because if it's going the other way, it's not going to help you, I promise you. So you can redirect your power. And I hope you all do. I think everybody who's involved in this teaching knows that that's really something that I know when I'm going into a negative place, it's my responsibility to turn that around. And I really, as I see myself, if I dwell on something, then I know I really need to turn it around. And furthermore, I know that I can. And as Louise Hay would say, you can heal your life. So let's not be confused about this. It's not going to help you if you're sitting alone in your room with saying, poor me, and ain't it awful. I promise you that it's like digging a hole. So pick up the phone, talk to somebody, take a walk around the corner, do something. Our next suggestion for radical self-healing is engage in affirmations. Use them throughout your day. I could give you 50 of them, and mine aren't any better than yours. What's important is that you use them. Use positive affirmations to reinforce your self-worth, to combat the negative self-talk that often accompanies codependency. Codependency is where you're unhappy with what other people are doing and how they're acting and all that. You have a lot of expectations. That problem, again, that would be your problem or my problem when I'm doing it. So we want to turn that self-talk around. I think of a couple of people I speak to often, and the conversation will go towards what somebody is doing to them. I say, listen, please find a way. From the Course in Miracles, I refuse to be offended. And then the tendency would be to say, but they're doing this, that, and the other thing. And I will say they do it all the time. So there's an invitation there to establish some boundaries with that person, right? Because if you keep going in for more of it, whose problem is it? So your affirmations are powerful, especially if you're passionate. You build up your passion behind them. Affirmations like I'm enough, I deserve love and peace, my needs are important, and these are powerful, or they certainly can be powerful. Learning to let go is a big one. Release the need to control the outcomes. Release the need to control the outcomes in your relationships. That can be so tough for people, I do know. Because people have a lot of invested in the other person, loving them or doing what they want and all that stuff. And you can torture yourself with that stuff. So as something to do in terms of loving ourselves more, we can really work on releasing the need to control the outcomes. Let go and let God. I mean, truly, I know it's not easy always, but this is what Louise Hay would say, I trust in the process of life. If someone's finding a need to be torturing you or something like that, then maybe it's time to establish some boundaries for yourself, first of all, and learn. And I'm not saying it's easy to let go and let God. Louise would say, when you really love yourself, everything will start to shape up. These folks will start to change and treat you in a different way that you would want to be treated, or they will be elsewhere. But the thing is, we're not here to give our power away. We're here to feel good. We're here to feel strong, confident. You are an individualization of God life, and you're here to express it abundantly, happily, joyfully. Accepting that you can't control others' actions or feelings, but you can manage your reactions is the key to internal peace. People are not going to behave. I put that in my notes because they won't. I mean, hopefully the people we love, love us back and they behave in a certain way, but you can't mandate it, okay? Barker's famous talk, Raymond Charles Barker's talk, How to Change People. I told you that joke. You put that in the newspaper and it was flooded with people, full house. But then the joke was, you can't change anybody. You can't change anybody. So back to this lesson, accepting that you can't control other people, their actions or feelings, but you can manage your reactions is a very important key to an internal peace. Learn to celebrate your achievements, recognize and celebrate anything you do, no matter how small. That's part of our teaching. We're here to be a lifter. We're not here to be in a drag. We're here to be lifters. Tell yourself, great job, wonderful. And then, as you're the person who's seeing the good and you're acknowledging and you're giving yourself high five, great job. This helps to build self-esteem and it reduces the reliance on external validation. We want to learn to say, hey, great job, without me needing to look over there and hear it from 5 other people. I want to learn to know it for myself. I've said before, affirmations are the cornerstone of what we do. Affirmative prayer is the cornerstone of what we do in religious science. But Louise emphasized affirmations, which are so powerful, especially as you bring them into your consciousness. She claimed they to be a tool to transform our thought patterns and by extension, heal our lives. So affirmations for us. I approve of myself. I love myself deeply and fully. With these affirmations, we rewire our minds towards positivity and self-acceptance, paving the way for a life of fulfillment and joy. Here's a quote that I found that I thought you might like. Saying no to what drains us is, in fact, a profound yes to our own well-being. So, something to think about. If you're saying yes to everything and you're overburdened, you've taken on too much, you want to take your power back. This is the quote I found. I'll repeat it. Saying no to what drains us is, in fact, a profound yes to our own well-being. Let's speak a moment about nurturing our body and mind. Our bodies are the sacred temples that house our souls on this earthly journey, deserving our utmost care. Louise said, I listen with love to my body's messages, encouraging us all to tune into our body's needs, whether it's asking for rest, movement, nourishment, or healing. Through this practice, we learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and care we would treat a beloved friend, affirming I'm at peace with my body and I accept it as it is, allowing us to embrace our physical selves with gratitude and love. I hope some of these insights or some of the questions I brought up might just jog your memory or giving you some ideas of pointing you in directions that could be helpful. So we're going to close this discussion with an affirmation inspired by Louise herself. I'm a radiant being filled with light and filled with love. I honor my need for self-care, knowing that by nurturing myself, I am better equipped to contribute to the world around me. I'm worthy of love, care, and all the joy of life, all the joy that life offers. And so it is. So now it's our time to hear from all of you. That's really become my favorite time. I want to hear about your demonstrations. I want to learn how you're taking care of yourself and all the rest. So we'll see you in just a moment.